Hello and welcome to the Lean on Agile show. I'm Shaheen, your host, and today I have a dear friend of mine that I had the pleasure to work with, Anna. Thank you, Anna, for joining me.
Hi, Shaheen. Really lovely to be here. Thank you for bringing me on. Earlier, I was just, complimenting you on that background of yours.
Thank you. So tell us who Anna is.
Who is Anna? Anna is so many different people. And of course, these days, the Anna I am is probably, the person you are not as familiar with, because when we worked together, we were working in tech. And so I kind of transitioned away from doing research and I went into the coaching space. And the catalyst for that was this process of working at an amazing job that I loved, and then coming across this situation where I couldn't work anymore and not knowing what's going on, and starting to look for help from different professionals, later finding out it's burnout, and no one really being able to give me all the answers to how am I going to get my energy back, and will I feel like a normal human being ever again? And at that point, Shaheen, and I'm curious if you share my sentiment, because I was reassessing my life, I really felt like a lot of my friends were burning out too in tech all around me. And I kind of felt like I partially contributed to this state of affairs that we're in, because we've built up all this technology that is super sophisticated. And it seems like we were all suffering the repercussions of this informational overload, constantly being inundated with various ways of basically trapping our dopamine and making us into users, right? Like in tech, when we build stuff, we build it for users. Right. And the only other place where they refer to people as users is when they work with addiction and like drug use. So, we've been building all this stuff for users, ourselves included. And I remember very distinctly, before I started feeling completely useless, I was spending my evenings just scrolling LinkedIn, like all evening, and thinking that I'm doing something productive, and there's got to be a reason why I'm on here. I'm networking or doing something or building a personal brand. But then, later it became apparent to me as I learned more about the neurochemical processes behind how we use social media, is that it was nothing more than just a pure digital addiction. So to kind of cut that story short, as I was rethinking what I'm doing in life and where I'm going, I really felt like, because when I was a kid, the whole reason why I even got into this field, trying to build better things for people, is because I was hoping to make a positive change in the world, but it wasn't really feeling like that anymore. So I thought maybe instead I'm gonna try to help people actually cope and deal with all this technological digital burnout that's out there. That's how I got into NLP coaching. So I retrained as an NLP coach. And then because I was into biohacking, that's part of what I was helping people with as well. So kind of like taking this holistic approach, right? Mind, body, and systems type of thing. So yeah, that's kind of the Anna the Anna of today.
Right. Anna 2.0 or 3.0 after a couple of turning points in her life. I'm very glad. So I love to talk about NLP, and we get to that. But could you remember what was that moment that you figured out, or it was hinted to you that you need to change direction? Could you tell us about that moment and what did you do? Because some of our audience might not knowingly be in that moment, right? What pointed out to you that you need to take a different direction, or what was the thing? Like burnout, I heard about that, but tell us more about it.
That is such a great question, because no one sees it coming. And the natural reaction that we have is to keep pushing, keep doing stuff until it's too late. And then you just shut down physiologically and you can't keep pushing. And so the way that people can recognize the signs of getting into this more severe stage of burnout is they become sort of cynical, unhappy. Everything seems very unsatisfying to them. It's difficult to enjoy the things that you used to enjoy in the past, even hobbies and doing things. So people often find that they're maybe not even happy with the work they're doing, and they feel like it's not bringing them the satisfaction anymore. And then, of course, exhaustion and just feeling like you don't have enough energy to do stuff, and you wake up tired every morning. So all of that together, that's kind of a sign. Also body pains, any kind of like changes, weight gain, weight loss, all of that stuff. And the thing that's interesting about it is that you don't have that one specific point where you realize, oh, something is, this is it. Because it's a build up. It happens over months and years. So for me, when I started looking back, I realized, because I started doing research. So I'm a researcher, so I couldn't help but had to dig into it and establish kind of like the theory of burnout, understand the academic research, the state of the, where we're at with it. And what I found out is that the research that's out there, it's kind of outdated because it's very much work related. That's how it's framed, because it was studied as a work related issue. So people think, oh, I just worked too much. I worked too hard. And, I just need to work less. But of course, that's just one of the data points in this equation. But the rest is the fact that we essentially grow up never learning the right habits or patterns of living to prevent this. And so eventually, at some point in life, this allostatic load, which is the stress load, just gets too much. And so we slowly get there. And because it's gradual, we don't notice. And so one day you'll find, oh, I'm kind of tired, but whatever, I'll just have more coffee. And that becomes a thing. Or you go to the gym more and you try to work out to kind of push away the tiredness. But at some point, life just becomes kind of miserable and very dissatisfying. And so at that point, there is no need to wait for like further signals. This is the time to kind of do something and really change it. And, some people go on vacation, but when you get to that point, vacation won't fix it. You have to change your life. Burnout is essentially an invitation to completely rethink your personality, your lifestyles, and whether you're living in alignment with what is essentially your values.
I love it when you said that you saw these things, and typically people that saw these indicators of burnout, like gain weight, don't enjoy life anymore, like they get into themselves and they don't do the research. I love that you took on the task and head on to it with it and done the research, find out what is missing, right? And so tell us, like if for example, I as a person saw those signs, what are the things that one person should do now that you have done the research? Share some. I understand that everyone will be different probably, but something that we can take away if we find ourselves in that state.
Certainly, I think stopping and trying to understand where you're at in life. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't doing the research out of curiosity. It was out of sheer necessity. It just happens to be that, I'm a researcher. So when I couldn't get the right kind of help, I had to go and figure out what's going on, because I've tried a lot of different things. And that's how I was able to kind of understand what exactly is happening. But, you want to pause. That is the hardest thing that you have to do immediately. There is a temptation to keep going. There is a very scary feeling of, oh, I don't know if I can take a couple of months off, or that feeling of, I don't know if I can reduce my workload or say no to some clients or something like that. But you have to do that so you can at least get yourself some breathing space to figure out what the next steps are. So, the clients I've worked with so far, what we do is we then, once we create that space, look at what are they doing and start kind of tracking and assessing what kinds of behaviors on a day-to-day basis, how do they do their work, how do they, sleep, eat, all of that stuff, what kinds of emotions they experience. That helps you bring back awareness of what's happening with you. Why is that important? Because when people suffer from this kind of state of being under chronic stress for a while, they disconnect from their emotions. It's a state of kind of depersonalization. So sometimes people mistake it for having a thick skin. But what it actually is a stress response, a survival mechanism. But when you disconnect from those signals, you no longer know what you need. That's why some people, they are chronically dehydrated. Other people have terrible eating and, other self-care habits that they don't even realize they have because they've disconnected so much from their, vitals, I guess. So you have to bring back awareness of that. So start tracking, start noticing what you're doing, be more mindful of what you're doing. And of course, get some help, because I'm sure it's tempting to just do it all on your own. But like for me, I tried to go to every kind of professional I could before I had to kind of try biohacking and other things. But a vacation is not a good option to solve it fundamentally, because it's not an issue of being just kind of tired. It's an issue of compounding effect of lifestyle habits and choices. Those build up over years and years, decades.
Right. And a vacation would be like a drug that a doctor prescribed for you to reduce the symptoms, not to solve the root cause, I guess, from what you're saying. And so tell us all about this NLP, and what is NLP first of all, and how that plays a role in the things that you do. Because in the agile world, we hear that here and there that NLP, you can use NLP as well when you're working with teams and leadership as well. So tell us more about that. I'm eager to hear.
Yeah, it's pretty cool actually that you mentioned your audience might be interested in that. A lot of the time people don't even know what neurolinguistic programming is, but when you talk to someone who's already familiar with it, that's a good start. Some people think it's something shady where you basically manipulate folks into, ooh, I'm going to talk to you a special way and you're going to do things for me. Well, certainly, I think there are some people out there who are able to use this in a nefarious kind of way, but everything is about intent, certainly. And so for me, for example, as a coach, the intent would be to help you figure out what patterns you subconsciously run in terms of, if we think of our mind as an operating system, what kinds of algorithms are written into it that are making you do certain things right now. And we can find that out through language. And language is kind of like an output, like you would get a computer to do a printout of a code. So that's what it is. It tells you what your thinking patterns are. And you're so used to them that you won't notice them yourself. But someone else will pick up on it and they'll go, oh, why are you saying that? What does that mean about the way you see the world? And so a person will start reflecting on it, and that's where change happens. And I think probably agile coaches would be very much interested in this, because they are all about making change happen. And that is a process of communicating and connecting with people. And frankly, the longer I spend with NLP, the more I realize that all it is just being really savvy at communication, becoming a more honest person with yourself and others. And also just becoming a better listener as well. which is really important for connecting with people well. So there are all these techniques and all of that, but certainly if you think about NLP in a nutshell, it's how we can decode language and then use language to better connect with people and their thinking patterns. And if those people so choose, help them make change in their life.
Would it be a fair sentence to say that NLP is rewriting the pattern language for you?
Yeah. So that's another part of it, right? Identify the patterns, and then you can change them. So, for example, at one point I found out when I started working on my postural alignment, I realized that I sink my head into my shoulders a lot, sort of unconsciously as I walk around. And bringing a pattern of thinking, the language pattern popped up, which is something I used to hear a lot as a kid, which is don't stand out. Because I was born in the Soviet Ukraine, and we were very much conditioned by the communist culture to be as kind of non-unique as possible, because that is a very threatening thing. If people think you're better than them in whichever way, financially or talent-wise, they would absolutely destroy you. And so as a survival mechanism, what got encoded into us is learning to kind of be in the middle, be like everyone else, try not to stick out too much. And so that was ingrained through the language patterns in my psyche. And my body was just kind of adapting, shaping, molding to that thought pattern. Right?
I can relate to that as well. Back in Iran that I used to live, we are part of a religious minority that it's called Zoroastrian, and most of the people from Iran is Muslims. And if you look back at the people that are part of our minority, you can see the similar patterns in them. Right? You live there as if you're in the middle, not many people to stand out, and for many different reasons. So, and it reflects back now that I'm, as you said, right, coaches, I'm working with a coach as well, and that pops up here and there. Like when I'm talking about my challenges, it goes back all the way to how and when you have been brought up as well. It's ingrained in us, and it's always good to talk to a coach about it. Awesome. And now you become a coach. So how is life as a coach different than when you were in tech?
Well, I really enjoy it because I always enjoyed working with people, and as a researcher and someone who had to manage complex projects and kind of, grease the wheels of collaboration, I always had to figure out how to connect with people and communicate with them better, especially when I'm trying to deliver less than pleasant research findings and briefing the stakeholders on something they don't want to hear. So for me, it was, something that felt like a good kind of transition. It didn't feel like it was completely foreign or too difficult to embrace. And I learned a lot. In fact, I would say through becoming a business owner, I've learned a lot, and I feel like I've actually become a better person in many ways, because some of the things that I assumed about others previously, when I started doing, I realized, A, take a lot of effort, and then B, people are not nearly as kind of interested in sort of rubbing you the wrong way. If before maybe I was too focused on myself and kind of how I was feeling about interacting with people. As a business owner, you start realizing that no one really cares. People are out there just trying to do things, get things done, and whatever, and you kind of take your feelings too seriously. So in many ways, it was a really good growth process for me. Whether I was going to continue doing it or not, it wouldn't almost matter, because I just gained so much. and I grew in
Yeah.
so many different ways.
Right. Is there a brand that associated with your business that you want to mention that?
Sure, if that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I run Burnout Broccoli coaching.
Yeah.
So Burnout Broccoli is the fun name I came up with when I was going through my recovery process. And one of the things I had to do in changing how I was eating, I had to start consuming a lot more greens, a lot
Broccoli.
of fiber. And so I was trying to figure out, yuck, greens, which one should I eat? And, broccoli was kind of something that I started enjoying. So broccoli and I became good friends, and here we are.
The most favorite green that is out there, I'm sure by everyone's consensus would be broccoli. Like, who doesn't like broccoli, right?
I met some people, which is really hurting my brand. So maybe I should put together a broccoli lobby.
Yeah, it's a very catchy name, Burnout Broccoli. I love that name. Now I want to ask you kind of related questions. The business that I started is called Elevate Change. So tell me a little about when Elevate Change, someone tells you Elevate Change, what comes to your mind?
Right away, elevators come to mind,
Okay.
which means that you are moving something up from it being kind of over here to like a higher, better state. And naturally, change is a process of going also from one state to another. So together, it communicates to me that you are taking people from one state to a better state.
Yeah, that's the hope, I guess. Hopefully I can do that, or my firm can do that. And how so most of the change that you're involved is at the personal level. You work with people and help them through their burnout, through their challenges that they have. At what point would you consider let me see how can I ask these questions properly. At what point would you consider that they need some and that's a question about what's the difference between a coach and probably a trained psychologist, like someone that is really needs some help, right? Because we talked about some of the indicators that if you are, for example, burned out, if you are feeling tired, if you're in a desperate need of vacation, those are dealing with symptoms, right? But when people had to have maybe an experience to share with us, that someone come to you and goes, oh, this is really serious, I need to refer them to someone that takes care of it in a different dimension right now.
Yeah, excellent question. So the only time I would refer someone to a therapist is when people tell me that they are suicidal. And that's kind of like an ethical thing to do, I think. But even in that case, there is still hope for them. And some people who come to me actually have worked with therapists in the past. They've tried a bunch of things. So one of the clients I'm working with right now, without disclosing too much, has tried a lot of different things, including some of the popular psychedelic rituals right now. So people go through different things and try different things. And one of the reasons I'm out here doing this is because I found that NLP can be a quicker and different alternative to therapy, because what happens in therapy, it's based on psychoanalysis, which is rooted in the Freudian theory, 1800s, and there is a lot of talking about stuff and getting to the core of your trauma. And in some ways, what we now understand is happening in that process is re-traumatization of the person. And oftentimes there are folks who have been going to therapy since they were 18. And to this day, as adults, they're still doing therapy, and yet they're burning out repeatedly. Why? Because they've never actually changed some of these patterns of thinking and living. And if therapy is about talking, by the way, therapy is really good. I don't want to knock down therapy by any means, because I too have worked with a therapist and I've benefited. So it's a great option. But what I'm talking about is the reason that some people don't actually get a proper resolution from therapy, even after years of doing it. And so this old model of just kind of talking about your problems, it can be helpful, but there is also another way which can be faster, and NLP is one of those ways. And for example, when I was working with someone who was suffering from severe panic attacks since she was a teenager, at one point she was able to not have a panic attack after just 5-minute conversation. She was able to dissolve it, and she was able to start building the habit of getting in control of it. And she also has worked with different professionals in the past on it. In another case, we were able to alleviate the symptoms of PTSD in as little as 3 minutes for someone who was just assaulted. So the reason this works is because our physiology and mind has been intelligently designed to recover. And recover really efficiently. We just need to allow it and give it space to do that work. And when we approach it, so NLP approaches it kind of like from the core of this operating system that's running your mind. So we don't need to dig into your trauma. We don't need to understand, how mom and dad were mean to you or whatever happened in the childhood and explore all that stuff. We can just process those emotions and release the person from it. And then what comes next is building habits. That's one thing that I think is missing from a lot of therapy services today, because talking about stuff is nice, but change doesn't happen if you don't actually start living and embodying these new patterns of thinking. So habit formation is the next important step, which kind of seals the deal. And so the way NLP works, it's through pattern interrupts, language patterns, anchoring people in good emotions, and also it's a powerful way of reframing stuff. And another reason that, it's an option for people who are considering therapy is because for NLP practitioners who, let's say, have been through certain experiences themselves, there is something that happens on a neurochemical level when two people come together and one person can almost impress a certain attitude or kind of like pattern of thinking onto another person. And sometimes when you work with a specialist who maybe hasn't experienced some of the things you've been through, it may be a little bit harder for you to believe them or kind of like feel like this thing will work. So yeah, that's kind of like another added benefit of this approach.
Right. And one question that I typically ask from my guests on the podcast is that, is there any specific resource, any book, any video, anything that you can refer to people to, and you liked it most through your career? And I want to ask you, because we talked a lot about NLP, is there any introductory maybe for the people that are listening to take a look at or read a little bit about that you can refer us to?
Okay. It's a good question, because somebody asked me that question before and I should probably be better prepared for it, but frankly, I don't have anything to recommend.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure any book you look up on NLP will be a good one. Yeah, what can I tell you? I don't know. I haven't really thought about it because I didn't learn from books, right? I had a really good coach who trained me. So yeah, probably any kind of reading that's out there is worthwhile.
Right. You can refer to that coach if you want. Like, do you want?
Sure. Yeah, his name is David Key.
Okay. So David Key is a coach that is like a very good NLP coach, I guess. And what's next for Anna? So now that you're here, your focus on coaching people. What's the next challenge that's coming your way?
The next challenge is to have a steady running operation and just keep improving my offer. I want to make sure that I'm delivering value to people, delivering it more quickly, and having them see great results. So iterating, right? Agile.
Yeah. True. Lots of the things that you mentioned was very close to heart of agile coaches and agilists, right? Working with people, understanding them, helping them not focus on the problem, but focus on what's next and what's better, right? Like all of these things that you can get through NLP. So how long did it take for you to learn NLP? Is it like one week, or is it like a very big investment that needs people to do? How long does it take for people to get started on that?
Took me probably about a year.
Okay.
But I mean, it's an ongoing process, right? I understand it more deeply as I practice it, and that's where a lot of the learning is happening. And I start remembering, oh, right, that's why the coach was talking about that thing. Oh, okay, well, this makes sense. You have to embody the knowledge. So yeah, of course, with practice.
For me, it would take like twice as much. The audience, keep in mind that Anna is a very smart person here. So.
Oh no. I think it's all about practice. So I'm sure if you got into it, you would figure it out really quickly, maybe even faster than me.
Right. And was it any step that you have taken that you would have taken differently now that you look back after this journey that you become here?
You mean maybe some of the stuff I did, or like decisions in the past?
Yeah, maybe something that you have did and it was not necessary, and you spent time on it and you figure out that was a base, or maybe something that you could have done faster.
And sorry, is that in the business journey or just overall?
Overall, like whichever.
For sure, I realized how uptight I was about my work in the past, and how I was taking the stuff I was doing too seriously. And when we connect our self-validation to our work, it's always a bad recipe for bad things to happen. So when we put so much pride and so much, thought into making our work, let's say when I was a researcher, making our work kind of a vehicle for gaining that validation from others, life becomes really, really difficult. And so I didn't understand some of the people who, for example, were the 9-to-5ers that would leave right on time, or have to, do some family things, or show up late because maybe they were picking up their kids from school. Because I was so invested in just work and efficiency.
Right.
And I do regret that, because I wasted a lot of opportunities to just live life and enjoy and have a more relaxed way of being. So anyone out there who's super uptight about their work, honestly, from a person who burnt out and was feeling useless for a couple of years, it would serve you well to kind of expand the horizons.
Right. And it takes courage to say that. Like I'm very proud to have a guest that brings that up and share that with the audience of this podcast and the publicly, right? So not many people do that. And when you were talking about being uptight, this came to my mind. Life is too short to take it seriously, right? So at the end of the day, life is too short. So why be very hard on ourselves on that, right? And get ourselves to the point that we are burned out, not being happy, right? Happiness is you need to find it yourself, not the surroundings bring it for you, or the things that you have. Anna, was there anything that we wanted to talk about that we forgot to mention? Anything that slipped our mind?
Well, I'd love to elaborate on this elusive pursuit of happiness.
Yeah.
What happens, what we understand about stress response is that when a person is really wound up and they're so into their work or pursuing something, they literally can't enjoy simple things. So you have to make a conscious choice and effort to relearn enjoying the simple things, like socializing with your loved ones, friends who maybe aren't work friends, people who do other stuff that maybe you aren't as interested in. Just learn to enjoy the aspects of life that you started pushing away from yourself. It's a conscious effort. And happiness is not something that I used to think just happens when you finally get this position at work, or when you finally make this amount of money, or when you finally, arrive to a different destination, then happiness happens. But it doesn't. And I saw people in my family spend their whole life, get into retirement, and still not find that happiness, because they were hoping that happiness is somewhere at the end of some kind of road. But happiness is a choice. It's a process. It's being present and aware. And if at any point I start getting too wrapped up in something, that's a sure sign that I'm going to lose that happiness, because I'm not being present. So practicing that aspect of mindfulness is really important, and get your loved ones to keep an eye on you too, because they're really good at spotting when you're getting into a pattern.
Yeah, exactly. Typically when I run a feedback session with teams, and when we give feedback on one-on-one basis, the team gives them feedback. I tell them that the feedback that you receive, the best person to evaluate it would be with your loved one. So if, for example, people give you feedback that you don't take ownership, it might be very hard to accept it, but go and ask your loved ones, is that true about me? And they are the best person to tell you, yeah, it could be, or no, it couldn't be, right? And the same thing, right? I think when you have your loved ones around you, family, friends that are very close to you, they can easily tell if you're happy or not, right? So, and if you don't see any of those indicators, you can tell yourself if you're burned out or not. Just ask around, guys, do you see me as a happy person? And if they tell you you're not a happy person, you should do something about it. And eat more broccoli, not the burnout ones. But if you see you are eating the burnout broccoli, you can reach out to Anna for some advice and some coaching. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Anna, for being on the show. How can people get in touch with you if they want to?
I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So just look for Burnout Broccoli. On Instagram, I like fun kind of content and videos and stuff. So if you guys just want to be entertained a little bit, go there. LinkedIn is a little bit more, suit on kind of.
Right.
Yeah, Twitter, I guess Twitter and Instagram is where I spend most of my time.
Right.
So anyone can find me on there.
Okay. Burnout Broccoli. Check it out. Thank you so much, Anna, for being on the show. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I hope to have you soon again on the show.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Shaheen. Such a lovely way to connect, and you have great questions, and I'm really happy to be able to share.
Take care.